Good morning. This is a special video for the EDT303Q students only. So, besides learning about religion, you have another task. You have to learn about the religion, the place of religion in the South African education system. And there's a policy on that. Now, in your tutorial letter 102, Dr. Mason takes you through this policy. Help guide you through it. But you need to get your hands on the policy itself. Now, we got a problem there. He gives a link to it, but, government websites are incredibly unstable. Now, I just tested the link and it doesn't work. So, that's not a good enough reason. Come on, guys. Finding information when you need it is a skill that you have to learn if you're going to be a teacher. You can't just passively sit and wait and, it doesn't work. No. So just type into Google, National Policy on Religion and Education, and several PDF copies come up immediately. Okay, so you can get your hands on that policy, and you need to read that document itself. Not just that letter 102, which talks around it. Okay, at the end of the study unit, you should be able to outline the main themes in the policy, explain the relation between the policy, the constitution, and the curriculum, reflect on the implications of the policy for religion studies, and begin planning religion studies tasks based on the policy. So, what does this mean? Let's put it this way. In the very early 2000s, when this policy was created, now, as it happens, I was there at the time. I didn't actually write this policy, but I know who did, and I was sort of his research assistant at the time. So what does this policy say? Well, you have to read it against something that for many of you will be just a history lesson. Christian national education, which privileged one religion, Christianity, above all others. Everybody was supposed to, just not only learn Christianity, but a specific type of Christianity. So this is what the policy is trying to get away from. And this is the most flexible, beautiful, progressive policy anywhere in the world. Trust me, you will not find better. And when you get to schools, you will find that it is being flagrantly disregarded. We know that. Nevertheless, this is the policy. And one day they're going to crack down on teachers who just present Bible lessons as if nothing ever happened. So you get a minister's foreword by Professor Carter Asmal, who was Minister of Education at the time. And let's scroll down here. Here, the context. South Africa is a multi-religious country. Over 60% of people are Christians, but there are a wide variety, blah, 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 blah. Right, values. This policy for the role of religion in education flows directly from the constitutional values. Okay, there it is, paragraph 11. Right, so one of the questions we ask very often is, how does the policy reflect the constitutional, the Bill of Rights, blah, blah, blah. And then you have to tell us, in the policy it says this, and this reflects this little bit of the Constitution. Go to the Bill of Rights in the Constitution. You do have a copy of the Constitution, don't you? Every South African should have a copy of the Constitution. If you don't, go download it now. Right, blah, blah, bum, bum, bum. And it talks about the South African School Acts. Right. Okay, let's here skip to number 16. Citizens do have the right to establish independent schools, including religious schools, as long as they avoid racial discrimination. Right, and that can be very religious. Right. In certain institutions, the requirements for religious instruction and religious observances in private religious schools would not be prescribed by this policy. However, they're still required to achieve the minimum outcomes for religion education. Right, so religion education is, no, let's be practical. It's part of life orientation. It's becoming a smaller and smaller part as the years go by. Nevertheless, there we have it. Right, so that part, religion education, from grade R all the way to grade 12, in life orientation or whatever they call it, by the time you get into a classroom. That is not negotiable. That has to be achieved. Just like sex education, environmental education, it's there and it has to be done. Okay. Then there's religion studies. Now, religion studies is a subject in grades 10, 11, and 12. Just like maths, biology, English. Okay, so keep those two things very clearly in mind. Right, and so study this, all this material about religion education. Oh yes, people are asking me, is this available in Afrikaans? No, it isn't, because government never translated it. Maybe you should complain to the Pan South African Language Board that why is the government not translating, all policy documents like this in all official languages? Hey, it's not something I can do anything about. Right, so more about religion education, materials, contents and assessments. Right, religious instruction. Right, here we are on paragraph 55. Religious instruction is the responsibility of the home, the family, and the religious community, not the school. Now, in terms of this policy, the school's job is not to make little Christians better little Christians. It's not to make little Muslims better little Muslims. However, it does say that the school can make a conducive environment for all children from all religions to live out their religious beliefs and practices. Right? And so we get here to 58, religious observances. Right? So, public schools may make their facilities available for religious observances in the context of free and voluntary association. In other words, anybody can opt out. Right? And if you're in a school and a student complains that they opted out and now they're being victimized, you are in big trouble. Okay, so let's get clear on that. So if there's atheist kid, Jehovah's Witness kid, who says, my family doesn't want me to partake in this, it's your job to find somewhere else for them to be, as a teacher and later as a principal. Okay, and you cannot discriminate against the kids because of that. So, there are various types of religious observance implied. Voluntary public occasions, Make use of school facilities for religious service on a day of worship or rest. What does that mean? It means that a school may rent out its school hall to a church on Sundays. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, good way for your school to make a bit of money. Voluntary occasions. Look at the word voluntary. When the school community, teachers and pupils gather for a religious observance. Yeah, you can have that, and just remember, no pressure on any children to attend or not attend. Observances held in a voluntary gathering of pupils and teachers during a school break. No? A little prayer meeting during a break, sure. As long as only those who want to go have to go. And an observance which may be ongoing and entail other dimensions such as dress, prayer times, and diets, which must be respected and accommodated in a manner agreed by the school and the relevant faith authorities. Okay, so think about that. If you're a teacher in a high school and a Muslim boy comes and he says, according to my belief, I must start growing a beard. Right? You need to be able to handle that in terms of this policy. Muslim kids will have to pray 5 times a day once they're, sort of past puberty, their adolescence. Now, not all 5 of those will be in school hours, maybe 3 or so. See, but nevertheless, if you have a couple of Muslims, you need to say, okay, here's a little room where you can do that. And organize with them. When do they do that? That's also in the policy. So the policy is not just about what happens in the classroom, it happens about what happens in the whole of the school. Diets, kosher, halal, vegetarian. There are more unusual ones that you may come across. So the whole point is to be sensitive to the children you have in your class. Because the old days when, if you were in a white school, you would simply assume that all the children were Christians. If you were teaching in an Indian school, then there would be 50% Hindus and 50% Muslims. Now, those days are over. Any child can go to any school. You are going in your career to come across children from very different religious traditions or no tradition. Keep that in mind. You are going to have little atheist kids in your class. And if you try to convert them to whatever your religion is, you're going to be fired. Maybe not immediately, but yeah, the parents can put a complaint to the MEC for Education, and you're going to be in trouble. So whatever their family's preference or tradition is, you have to respect it. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to, if you are, say, a Christian, you don't have to try to, make little Faisal a better Muslim. That's not the point. You don't have the training or the inclination to do that. But, sorry, in the same way, if you are a Christian, it's also not your job, in terms of this policy, to make little Johnny a better Christian. That is the pastor's job. Or the priest, if he's Catholic. You just create an environment with little Johnny and little Faisal don't mood each other during break time. And, everybody gets along and everybody is respected. Okay, let's go through this. Alright. Paragraph 62. Appropriate and equitable means of Acknowledging the multi-religious nature of a school may include the following: separation of learners according to religion, when the observance takes place outside of the context of a school assembly, with equitably supported opportunities. In other words, we have school assembly, which is for announcing the sports results and, who the new prefects are. And then, okay, all the Baptist children go to class 105, and all the Catholic children to class 107, and all the Muslim children to class 252. Right, where there will be a Baptist pastor and a Catholic priest and a Muslim imam, waiting for them. And so this is not during the assembly. It is afterwards or before. It doesn't matter. So, what does equitable mean here? Well, it's going to be very difficult to organize this if you have a single Buddhist child in your class. That's not reasonable. But where the numbers warrant it, and where you can get somebody to do it, if that's a teacher, fine. If you can get an outsider to do it, also fine. Right. Then, rotation of opportunities for observance, according to the representation of different religions in the school. So, if we have a Dutch Reformed domineer talking to the children on this Monday, and next Monday we'll have a Hindu priest, or a Baptist pastor, or a Methodist, or a Catholic, or a Muslim, right? For that you need to have your pulse on what are the proportions here. But the teachers as a whole should know that. Selected readings from various texts emanating from different religions. The use of a universal prayer, I would stay away from that one. Or a period of silence. That is probably the easiest one to organize. We will now have a period of silence. Right. I mean, how easy does it get? You're free from controversy. Okay, then. So that is the most basic ideas of the policy. So now that you know that, take Tat Letter 102, get your hands on the policy. Please, guys, don't tell me that you can't get the policy. I googled it, I found it, 5-6 PDFs of it within seconds. And you do need to read the actual policy. So don't be scared of it. It's a very good policy, actually. It's the most flexible one you find anywhere on earth. Trust me. And then when you go to your school, you'll have to find out what your particular school actually does and, how they approach things, and then you quietly see, oh, these guys are not compliant with the policy. I will just quietly start introducing those things that are compliant. Okay, so that is what I have to tell you about that. And I now still have to talk to my second years. So next week I will see you, and I will be talking, I think we're on the last of the study units by then. Bye-bye.